Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Today, I am so excited. We have a really special guest. So this person actually, Julie, I met in through a coaching program that I joined, and we were part of a little mastermind group. And Julie led this mastermind group, and she's an amazing leader. But really want to talk about kind of her story, how she transitioned. She came from like a line of people in real estate. She was a teacher, and she took a big step into the commercial space and is killing it, has a podcast. I could go on and on about her. Like, she's just like an amazing person and just somebody that's so relatable. And, I'm so excited to like connect with you and have you on the show. So welcome, Julie Holly, to the show.
I'm trying to contain all of my enthusiasm, and I'm already an enthusiastic person, but being in the space with the two of you, and we all met at an event in LA in separate capacities, and it's amazing. Like, meeting people in person is so powerful. That was before the pandemic, and it's just a joy to see like where we're all at now.
So it was crazy because I didn't even know that you knew like Lenny. And what's crazy is at this event, I sat next to Lenny at this event. So I mean, initially, like when, and it's just crazy how, you think about these like live like events and people always say, oh, why would you pay $500? You can learn about it on YouTube and fast forward, it'd almost be 3 years, and kind of see like where.
Yeah. Yes, correct. It was in January.
That's insane. Yeah. So just maybe just like a brief history of like, where you're from, what you currently do, and maybe like a quick timeline of how you got there. Like 2 minutes.
Boom. Okay. Thank you. See, parameters are really great. Right. So I was born and raised in California, but now I live in this like really tiny town. I'm basically Canadian, and my internet is always trashy because I live on 10 acres in the middle of nowhere. And it's a totally different life, and it's so much fun. And by way of moving up to North Idaho, even further north than Coeur d'Alene. So if you know Idaho at all, North Idaho, I'm like further than Coeur d'Alene by an hour and a half. And all that to say, like, we moved up here. My husband asked me to go back into public school education once again. I had taken time off, was dealing with some rentals that we had, was homeschooling our kids, was helping my husband with his real estate sales business. As you can see, I said, I wear a lot of hats at any given time. I was running a homeschool co-op that I started out of our house. Lots of things going on. And all of that changed when we moved up to North Idaho. And then I kind of got antsy, wanted to get back into the investing scene. And I said, honey, I can't stand it. We got to get this money moving. And he's like, figure it out. And that's when I discovered apartment syndication. Like many of you listening, I listened to a ton of podcasts, and one podcast led to another. And I'm sitting there listening to Bigger Pockets, and I hear Monique Halm describe apartment syndication. I'm like, the skies have parted. God has spoken. I am supposed to be a syndicator. It takes everything that I love. It takes like my love to educate people. It takes my love for people, and it takes my love of real estate. And it combined it all and was so perfect. But I knew I needed to learn. I knew that if I wanted to bring, private capital into any investment, I really needed to learn, which is why I was attending events. I was like, I have to go. I need to get educated. I need to invest in my knowledge so that I can confidently take care of investors that invest with me. Well, that's where we met. That was the second event that I went to. And then I learned that events are really great because you meet all sorts of really amazing people, and it's so much better to break bread with people and to have conversations with them face to face. It's amazing. So now, by way of living in this little tiny town, and way back then in 2020, 2019 is when I kind of got started. And then it was like, how do I get my name out there? How does like somebody who doesn't have access to meetup groups, how do I figure all this out? And so I launched a podcast. I'm like, you know what? Let's launch a podcast. And you two gentlemen were like, Lenny the boss, I think you were maybe my second episode. So y'all can go back to like 2020 and yeah, yeah, I'm sure you were in the top 5. I know me, you were definitely like in the top 15, I'm sure of it. And so it was this amazing process. And now that has just morphed into this beautiful thing that serves people with mindset and investor knowledge. Over 350 episodes now, or probably at this point, 350. And we're holding our first in-person event, and we've got investors in over 100, invested in over $100 million in assets, and a high performance coach. And so it's just really, everything has just gelled and come together. But it all started by willing to take all of what my husband, Steve, and I, and you guys have met him, call reasonable excuses and like throw them away.
No, Julie, that's super. First and foremost, let's just get a big, huge congratulations on all the episodes and the success. Gotta give you that. Got to give you that. Listeners, if you are listening, we want to hear some claps from you as well. But Julie, I'm gonna give a little history on how we met, right? Julie and her husband got to be two of the best people I ever met in my life, right? As Julie explained earlier, we all attended an event. Julie and her husband was there. We all stayed at a hotel, like a 3 or 4 day event, and came down to breakfast. I was by myself, right? I had my little tag on to let everybody know that I was a part of this event. Sat next to Julie and her husband, which they are intimate, they're great, they're loving. I'm over here at another table. They look over and say, "Dude, are you here at the event?" I'm like, "Yeah." She said, "Well, come over here, eat with us." Just like that. And I'm like, "Oh, are you sure? Because, you're here without your kids, you got some quiet time." And I mean, we instantly connected and talked about any and everything, under the sun, from kids to food to ice cream to the event to goals to any and everything that you can say. And talking about family, I follow, Julie, and if you're not following her, I strongly suggest that you do, is that you have a beautiful family. Your son, your daughter, you guys are super beautiful. And you have the podcast going on. You have syndication going on. You have the event going on. And you have a family that you love, right? What's the mindset behind that? What kind of mindset are you in to sit here and pull these things off? Give the energy to your husband, give the energy to your kids, give the energy to yourself, right? And give the energy to, the business and the ventures that you into.
That's really a very powerful question. And I think, listener, you understand how powerful that is, because it's so easy to find ourselves just buried in tasks. And then the very reason that we're doing what we're doing is getting neglected. And I've definitely gone through waves where I've been way too lopsided one way or another. And one thing I do is I do regular, not constant, I do regular check-ins with my kids, with my husband. It really started with my kids before Steve, quite frankly. And I'll just ask him, like, how am I doing as a mom? Get a scorecard from your kids. Like, ask them, like, hey, what am I doing great? Literally, I ask them. I've done this for years now. They're now 14 and almost 12. And I'll ask them, like, what am I doing well? And what do you think I can improve upon? And it's a very transparent conversation. It's something I wish that I had access to when I was a kid. So I implemented it in my life, and it's been really great. The feedback is surprisingly pretty darn good. But recently they'll even tell me as they're getting older, like, I need more TV time. I need more snuggle time. And I am a productive person. Like, I can't stand sitting and watching movies. But last night, I just sat and watched Matilda because my daughter wanted to watch it. And, I'm learning now that taking the tasks and put them in check. And I keep asking myself, especially as your kids get older and that distance to adulthood is closing, I am just like, I'll just look. I had plenty of things that needed to get done. Legit, man, social media posts. You guys get it. Like things that just needed to I needed to send off to my assistant. I just needed to do it, that I made a choice. I called the shot. I'm like, I'm not going to regret doing that tomorrow and maybe putting more weight into my Monday than spending time here with my daughter and being present instead of spending here. So I'm really starting to put into perspective, like, what is the overhaul here? What does this actually look like? I have 4 more summers before my son, who says he wants to be a Marine. He might. If he does that, that's a game changer. That's life. He's not going to be around. So like, how am I being present and guiding and directing and creating a longer lasting relationship? So long story short on that, it's really, for me at this point, it's about looking at the tasks that need to be done and saying, what's the priority number 1? And in 5 years, what am I going to look back and regret? Am I going to regret that I didn't get that done, or that and I'll get it done. It's not that I'm like putting it, but it's like, what am I actually going to regret? And so I've created some very clear guidelines. Like, I'll pick my kids up at 4:00 from school and it's done. Like, so when my workday is on, I'm on fire. It is intense and my brain is gelatinous at the end, but I drop them off in the morning. And after that moment, I grab my coffee and it's just like, go, 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 knock out the tasks. So really understanding what my priorities are, what are the tasks that are going to move the needle. So being dialed in on that. And then what can I outsource? So I hired the most exceptional assistant ever, like hands down. I would be absolutely lost without my assistant. And I'm looking to likely this, in the next few months, bring on another person into the company so that I can free my time. And if you're listening to this and you're like, Julie, that sounds so terrifying. Like, I don't have extra money. Well, that's a reasonable excuse. And I made that reasonable excuse a long time ago for far too long. And it cost me time, and it cost me time with the people I care about most. And so what the reality is that we will find the money for whatever it is that we need. And so we need to stop making these excuses, and we need to start figuring out, well, how am I going to do that? How am I going to be able to afford, a part-time assistant? Okay, where am I going to come up with that, say, $400 to $600 a month? Like, we can figure these things out. And if we want to expedite our process to financial freedom, because there's a difference between financial and personal freedom, but if we want to expedite that process to financial freedom, we have to enlist the support of others. So I could go on, as you can tell, but I'm going to take a breather and let you guys have it. I mean, like, it is.
Love it.
No, I mean, I love that. I think that resonates really well with me, because I think sometimes, like, you're trying to figure out, where do you prioritize your time, what matters, and that's always a struggle. I mean, I struggle with that all the time. And sometimes it's like, okay, well, I want to be the financial piece, and you got the security. Then you want to do what about the physical piece, and like being like taking care of your body, or your, mental, physical self-care, the relationships. And then it's like your kids get the priority, and then the spouse sometimes gets pushed aside a little bit, or so I constantly am going back and forth and trying to figure out, okay, what is like the right balance. And I like how, you talk about, if you really want to kind of grow, you have to enlist others. Like, you have to kind of outsource some of those things that can kind of free up your time so you can get the best bang for your buck. So I guess, like, for listeners when do they figure out what is the right time to do that? I guess I know you said, okay, you're gonna like find a way to like, make some additional income to kind of, but when is a breaking point, or when is a point when you should get started? And let's say I want to enlist help, or I want to partner, or I want to bring somebody in. how do you assess that? And then, what's like, why do you get started? Let's say, I don't know, like an assistant, what does that mean? And where do I get one? And what do I do?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's so much to say on that. I want to backtrack real fast and add that Steve and I recently added a non-negotiable Saturday morning date. And it's absolutely fantastic. So a lot of times we date our spouse or our partner at nighttime when we're absolutely depleted and we're exhausted and we can't even carry on like a really great conversation. And we both love breakfast also. Yep. So anyhow, we changed that. And I also want to encourage people to read The 12-Week Year. I'm not Julie if I don't give you a book recommendation, but I'm almost finished with it. And it will give you so this will actually lead into, I do run a book club. If you're interested, shoot me an email, julie@julieholly.com, and I'll get you into the book club. But this is a great way for people to really evaluate, do I need an assistant, right? So understanding what are the tasks that I actually have to do. So before I hired an assistant, I was feeling the burn. And I think you two gentlemen have felt that also. I know for a fact, I mean, you have, it's like,
oh, absolutely.
Like, how am I going to get all this stuff done? There is too much. Yeah. And you start burning the candle at both ends. When you even get a glimpse of like, my physical, like my exercise routine is now encroached upon. Your health is priority number one. Conscious investors know this. Priority one, you have to be healthy. If you're not, like, everything will take you longer. So if your exercise routine is in jeopardy, then you need an assistant. Done. And so then you want to start doing an audit. Start writing down all the tasks that you're doing. And every time you do a task, then you want to write it down. And you want to say, like, if it's a task that you're avoiding, that is a clue. It's not in your zone of genius. And when you're not operating in your zone of genius, you're not going to show up and deliver the best results. And so just start writing all of those tasks down. Do it for about a week and see what shows up. And then you can start getting a profile as to what kind of assistant you need to hire. I happen to love social media and talking with people on social platforms, but creating the content and getting content out there, and like there's certain elements that it just is time consuming, labor intensive. I don't have time for that, but I have time for the engagement piece. So, okay, what does that look like? Who do I need to hire? Or I need to create all of these systems and spreadsheets and, like drip campaigns. Then I'm going to be looking for a different type of assistant. And so once you start writing down the tasks that need to get done that you don't want to do, that take you so much time and do not bring you any joy, there will be probably a consistent theme within those. And from there, you can really zero in on what kind of assistant that you are looking to hire.
Oh, Julie, you're just dropping so much on this, a few things I have to mention. I'm a big audio guy, right? So I'm actually listening to, for the listeners, you can't see this. I'm actually listening to, you got it right here, the 12-week year, so I had to, for the people who's watching this, they saw me probably looking down. I'm paying attention. I just was trying to get this on my phone, right? To show Julie that, I just actually started. so super amazing. But just there's a few things that I just want to unpack there. One, if I can add another book, if it's not in your book club yet, is The E-Myth, right, by Michael Gerber. Okay, and if you want to talk about systems and processes and when to do all those things, The E-Myth, I highly super highly suggested by Michael Gerber. Okay. Now, one of the things that, you did mention was just the team, right? Building a team, this reasonable excuse, right? Like, and also, the value that you put in your relationship with saying, I don't care what's going on in this world. Me and my boo thing, we're going to sit here and get together on Saturday. And I admire that because, one of the things that my wife and I did is these pop-up lunches, so what we would do is any day of the week, we would sit here and send each other a text and say, hey, let's meet here and let's have some lunch. and it's a date. We go there like little kids, and we talk. And man, I've been with my wife, for over 15 years, and having these pop-up lunches has been the best thing because it brings so much value, in your life. And I just didn't want to kind of glance over that because it's great to hear that you and Steve is doing, something similar of the such, but getting back to the team, right? And building that, because that can be a scary thing. What other tips that you have for people who are just starting out, and I mean it in a manner of what can they do kind of starting out so they can be ready to build that team? Are there any tips that you can give them?
Don't try to do it all. You will not be great at all of it. And so from the very get-go, and how we head into something is what I like to say is like it's a glimpse as to what we're going to see in the future. So if we're trying to wear all the hats, and I've already said I wear a lot of hats, but they're all hats in my zone of genius. And so they bring me joy and I'm able to execute on them. So I only do things that are in my zone of genius. I stay away from things that make me just want to rip my hair out. I don't like spreadsheets. I can do them, but I don't like them. And so really staying within the things that bring you joy. And it sounds so, we're not taught that. We're taught that sometimes you just got to get the work done. And it's like, yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of people really cranky. Look around at the world. And when we start realizing and finding the partners and the alliances, I love educating and supporting and engaging investors. That's really great. I have a lot of partners and they don't like that at all. Makes them want to rip their hair out. And so it creates this very great partnership. And so the first thing I would do if I were heading back, like starting into the syndication space, and I really did do this, is like get to know people very well and start figuring out know yourself, and don't be shy. Don't think that it's you're not on an ego trip. It's not a value statement. It doesn't make you better or worse than somebody because, well, they can do this and I can't, and I can only do this. No, everybody has value. What you bring to the table is going to be that missing link for somebody else. And so really be honest with yourself, evaluate yourself thoroughly, and know what I have to bring this to the table. Know that your past is transferable. All of your past skills from whatever careers you've had, whatever experiences you've had, those are transferable into anything that you do in life. And so if you've had project management skills, or for me, I had experience, managing rentals. I also had experience as a public school teacher managing 20 whatever students at a time, and educating and talking to parents. So all of those skills transfer over into what you want to do in the future, regardless of what it is. Do not diminish them. If you were a rock star then, you're going to be a rock star now. If you're pretty good then, you can still grow even further. And so finding that missing link, I think, is the number one thing in creating those alliances, and network your butt off, get to know people, hop on calls. And I know that all three of us have done that and continue to do that. You can't fill a need if you don't know what the needs are. So know thyself, know the needs around you, and seek to serve.
Man, I love that how you mentioned wear hats in your zone of genius, because I think a lot of times there's this tendency, even I get into this tendency where I'm like, oh, like I have all these things to do, and I just got to get it done, and I'm just gonna do it, and then time goes by, and then I'm like, where did the time go? And then you don't feel like you're accomplished, or you feel exhausted doing tasks that maybe don't come as natural to you. So, I think I guess my question for you is more around how do you so you talk about like, okay, your past skills. Are there any tools to recognize what you're good at, what you're not good at, and how do you showcase that to others? Like, let's just say, like, maybe you have the skill of like building relationships, so that comes natural. But let's say somebody who's an introvert, how do you, I guess, share what you're good at, or communicate that to others in and when you're in the process of networking?
Okay, so this is going to be funny maybe, but I didn't know that I was like a super networker. I didn't know that I didn't know I was a super connector, which is a really cool thing when you just remember people and you're able to just connect people because you're like, oh my gosh, that person, they're peanut butter and jelly. They need to, and you make the introduction.
Yeah.
I thought everybody did that. So look at yourself and see what comes super easy to you. What do you enjoy doing and what comes easily to you? Those are probably really great indicators of your strengths. And then think on the opposite side, what do I really hate doing? Like, what just drives me crazy? And then think about what that entails. And then feel free, ask friends. Ask friends, like, what are my and I believe in growth friends. And so the people that are in your life that are really close to you, they're going to know where you're going and what you want to do. And even if you're at the beginning, these are the people that you're sharing that with. It's like saying, hey, you know what? I just learned, I totally did this. And some of those friendships have transitioned. We'll put it that way because I'm like so down the rabbit hole and that might happen and that's okay. Friendships are for a reason, a season, and a very few select are a lifetime. And so all this to say, like, ask the people closest to you and say, hey, you know what? I'm excited. This is what I want to do. I want to syndicate apartment purchases, or I want to become a short-term, I want to develop a STR portfolio, right? Or I want, small multi and I want to serve communities. Just share your vision with people and say, what are some strengths that you see in me that you think could help me that would be good? And what are some, ask the opposite, give them permission to say, what are some things that you think I might present challenges for me? And look at that. I'd also recommend, I took it again recently, and if you're listening, you've probably taken a personality test. Don't be afraid to retake them because as we transition in life, our personalities do shift a little bit. So I like the 16 personalities test. It's free. It's pretty fast, and it really does give you a good snapshot. Some friends and I recently took it, and it really was like, whoa, that's really accurate. And it also, those type of things will tell you what your strengths are. And you can, then say, do I feel like that's my strength? Or you don't have to take it for free. Just take it at face value and then contemplate it.
Wow. Julie, you just packed with so much value. And I'm super shocked to hear that you're not this outgoing person or anything like that, because when I was there I'm lost for words right now. When I was there in California, that wasn't it. I'd seen this glow and a feel of come on into this space, and we known each other for years, right? Some of the things that you mentioned, that zone of genius is genius right there alone, okay? And one of the things I personally struggle with is exactly what you said, is the skills that you currently have, are they transferable? And I worked for a large company, and I was the VP of operations there. And I never thought that what I was doing there, it was transferable into, the real estate market. And it's just important that the listeners understand that, and understand another thing you mentioned is that everyone got value. Everyone got, and I'm just sitting here at all listening to you, Julie, honestly, like, this is absolutely inspiring. This is absolutely, amazing. Now, I never took a personality test, and you just inspired me to make sure that I take one. I took notes. 16 personality tests is free. I'm going to actually do it with my wife. I'm going to talk to her later on tonight, and we're going to take this personality test. So I want to say thank you. But with that being said, we're in this world of individuals that doubt themselves all the time, and with that, what can you tell a person who got doubt or who's nervous or who sit there and say, I don't belong in that room, or any of those things that are reasonable excuses on tips on how to get over that?
Well, going to another book, which I highly recommend. My book club's reading Motivation Manifesto right now, and he literally talks about doubt, and it falls under the category of fear. And I think this book is revolutionary. It literally is transforming my life. I've already finished it, but I'm going back through it with the book club. All that to say, I'm going to echo, because I didn't have words for this before, and he doesn't mix his words, and I appreciated that. It's very forthright and very candid, and it's going to sting. I'm letting you know, listener, it's going to sting. But when we're looking at doubt is coming from fear. And the only thing we have to be afraid of is imminent danger and imminent fear. So there is nothing that is going to lead to certain death if you are pursuing something that you are drawn to. Now, the cost of what we don't look at is the cost of, and these are my words now, what if you don't pursue that? How are you going to feel on the other side? We're going to feel weak. We're going to feel like cowards. We're going to feel disappointed with ourselves. All of our personal credibility is going to tank. What kind of person then are you going to show up in the world? All because of doubt. So then what are we doing with our ego? Like, basically, it's just a big ego play. Doubt is just stemming from, my ego is afraid of looking like I'm incompetent. My ego is afraid of, making a mistake in front of everyone. So now we're letting our thought of how we might show up and how others might respond run our life. So throw the doubt aside and take a chance on yourself. And I know that all three of us have done that. We've all battled doubt. We have all wrestled doubt. We have sometimes been taken down by doubt, but we're all here. So right now we're on top of doubt. And I'll tell you what, the more you practice this, the stronger you become and the easier it gets. And I have battles with doubt on a regular basis. Right now, since I'm having my very first live in-person event, I have all sorts of doubts going through my head, but I've been practicing with the smaller things. I've been practicing putting that doubt aside for a long time now. And so now it's like, okay, I see you, doubt. Sometimes in my mind, I will figuratively sit on a park bench with the doubt, put my arm around it, be like, doubt, good to see you, bro. You're not welcome here, but I appreciate you reminding me that you exist. And it can show us. So anytime the doubt does show up, it just shows us where we're feeling vulnerable. And that vulnerability is honestly the tipping point and the leverage point for everything powerful in your life. So think about it like that. When doubt shows up, it's exposing vulnerability, and that vulnerability is what will make you successful.
Wow. So overcoming this imminent fear. So you mentioned imminent danger, imminent fear, and how it kind of leads to doubt. So I guess for somebody who's maybe that just struggles with that, and I think we all struggle to varying degrees, and actually taking action and doing something. What do you recommend? What is the first step for them? What should they do? Because they're almost paralyzed. I feel like so many people are paralyzed by this, where they can never really jump to the next stage. So how do you overcome that?
It's a lot of internal work. This is truly an internal job. And so this is where we're going to make some reasonable excuses and say, I have to do this on my own. I can't pay for help. So if you want to try to DIY a personal transformation, which is that internal work that's going to help you overcome all of these doubts and insecurities, well, then pick up really good books. You can shoot me an email. I will shoot you my best books reading list, because the books you read will change your life. I am proof of that because I've been reading consistently with my book club for a few years now, and it's absolutely amazing. The second thing is listen to really high quality, high caliber podcasts that are going to help you with your mindset. I'm a little biased, but you can listen to the Conscious Investor podcast, Monday Mindsets, every single week for like going on 4 years now. I'm like not even trying to give a plug, but I'm like, this is my zone of genius. This is where I create a lot of content.
Then you said, bring it.
And then the next, that really, if you really want to expedite the process, you need to be working with a performance coach. And this is where I work with a coach. I have worked with a coach for years. And that honestly was the genesis, the catalyst for so much of my ability to overcome so many of these doubts and insecurities and a lot of the critical self-talk that I had. I was able to identify like, where did it come from? How is it? And to create really healthy strategies for working with that. Now I've been coaching clients for a long time now, and it's been phenomenal watching them be able to make these ginormous transitions. Like, it's life-changing because now you see yourself in a new way, and you have healing, or you have strategies and tactics. But it's crazy. I was working with one client recently, and we were talking about money mindset, and that has a huge implication as we are trying to invest. Our relationship that we have with money will create all sorts of doubts and insecurities, or maybe it does something within us. And she was sharing a story about, when she was a child and, they didn't have much money, and there was literally a hole in the ceiling of the house and they could see the sky. And we were able to actually like go into that scene and just support her. And it was healing. It was like, oh, wait, she realized she was happy. She was a child. She was there with other kids from her family. They were laughing and having a really great time. They were happy. So what could have been a dark situation and looking on it is like, oh, this is horrible. But she saw herself. She was remembering, going through that memory, and she's like, but we were happy. We didn't have anything, but we were happy. And it just did this little shift on her mindset. It's just like, poof, like whole new opportunity. It's really interesting where we start, venturing into coaching. So, and with coaching, you should always have a coaching experience with any coach that you are going to hire. You should it needs to be a right relationship. You need to make sure that you can work together in a really proactive way. And that's when it's collapses timelines. It's amazing.
No, it makes all the sense in the world. And thank you so much for sharing, because everybody needs a coach. I mean, think about it. Let's look at sports. And let's look at these athletes that's at the top of their game, the Michael Jordans, the LeBron James. Well, what do they all have in common? They have a coach. Even some of, the Oprah Winfrey's of the world, they have coaches. So, having a coach is just because they can see things that you just can't see, and help you, navigate through whatever that thing is that you just not seeing. And it's just super awesome. So, Julie, honestly, we can sit here and talk and all the mindset and gems, from reasonable excuses to putting value into your relationships, to building out your tasks and outsourcing, and man, genius within its own zone of genius. I love that. I mean, super amazing. But we do have a question for you, because here at Find Your Freedom, we don't have guests, we have friends. So here's the question. What does Find Your Freedom mean to you?
It's the ultimate. So I've really been swayed into this concept of personal freedom, because before I was pursuing financial freedom, and I always knew there was more to finding our freedom than just financial freedom. And that personal freedom looks like, and Steve and I were talking about this at our last date day, we were talking about what would an ideal day look like if we didn't have anything else pulling at us. And listener, think about that for a moment. What would your ideal day, actually day in, day out, look like? And so it's an opportunity. What I've realized, that real freedom to me is that opportunity to contribute to the world around me And that includes my family. That includes my friends. That includes my community. It includes the strangers that I'm able to reach through social platforms and such. So for me, that freedom is I can play in my zone of genius, which is my ultimate contribution, and I can give back to the world freely. And I'm not stressed out. I'm not stressed out because I'm scared of what people are going to say. I'm not stressed out because of money. And I'm super healthy because I'm taking time for myself and I have got thriving relationships.
Wow, like I love the the balanced answer that you have, and like thinking about even like the ideal day, like that got me thinking like, okay, what should my ideal day look like, and how can I be like intentional to construct that? So I think that's awesome. Like, so for our listeners, I mean, you're like amazing. They want to connect with you. What is the best way for them to connect with you?
Yeah, the best way is to head over to julieholly.com. That's my website. You'll see a picture of me. And it kind of is right now it's the landing page for everything. You can access my podcast. You can access the Conscious Investor podcast, 3 Keys Investments. You can also get information on the book club I facilitate. And if you are interested in having that coaching session or you're interested in investing, there's a calendar right there and you can schedule time with me. And that is my zone of genius. I love talking with people. So make sure, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid like, oh, she was on a podcast. I don't know if she'll want to talk to me. No, that's what I love to do. I want to serve and support you. And this year I have a goal of supporting 50 people in finding their personal freedom. And that's through investing and coaching. So I'd love for you to be part of that 50. So Julie@julieholly.com.
Beautiful, 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 Julie. So, what we like to do is we like to destroy people's ears. We like to tear down people's speakers, however they're listening to us, right? So we're going to give this boom, the biggest boom that you gave ever in your life. It's going to be a countdown from 1, 2, 3, and all 3 of us is going to say boom. All right? So you ready, Julie?
I'm ready. I don't know if my ears are ready.
All right. All right, let's do it. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Boom. Awesome, 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 awesome. Listen here. We just was talking to the great Julie Holly. And if you're not connecting with her, go to julieholly.com because that is where you can connect with her. And just like she said, I'm telling you, believe me, she loves to communicate, right? So make sure you book a time to communicate with Julie because she's super awesome. And I'm not saying that, I'm talking through experience, okay? Now, to bring the listeners more and more and more, episodes like this, we need your help a little bit. We want you to sit here, subscribe to us. We also want you to actually listen to the podcast and give an honest 5-star review, all right? And also ask questions down there. We have no problem going in there, answering your questions and helping you do anything that we can to help you find your freedom. So with that being said, make sure you share this with your cousin, your aunt, your uncle, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, everybody in the world, because everyone needs to find their own freedom. Until then, until the next episode, we talk to everyone soon. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.